growing up, I was called things like pizza face and connect the dots. And I recognized that my acne was worse than a lot of other kids my age. And so growing up with that, I reverberated what other people said to me in my own head, and that just exacerbated my emotional and physical condition. And it was exhausting to try to cover this up with makeup every day, to feel worthy of being in the world and worthy of the way I look. And it was like this frustration I got on YouTube because it wasn't a thing in 2010. I was like, this is how I get through every day. I hope this reaches someone that needs it.
Can you talk a little bit about the reaction you got to that video and your experience realizing that something so authentic and vulnerable had such an impact that it did?
Yeah. Moira, when I first posted that video, I didn't look at the internet for 4 months. I was
Intentionally.
I was in an abusive relationship. I had been struggling with my mental health. I was hurting myself because I didn't have the tools necessary to really embrace my confidence or understand how to ask for help. I think that's one of the hardest things. And when you grow up being called connect the dots or freak of nature or the walking infection, how do you expect the internet to be nicer? Especially in 2010. And I didn't look at that video until January, February, March of the next year. And when I did, I broke down. It was probably my first time in 5 years seeing beauty in humanity. Because instead of people telling me that I was ugly or unworthy, people were saying, oh my God, I struggle with this too. I have the same struggle. I don't see any celebrity. I don't see any model. I don't see any person, even in my workplace, experiencing this. You make me feel less alone.
What was the most valuable mistake that you made, or one that you see others falling into when they're thinking about connecting to an audience, building a community, or even building a business on a platform, especially that's so established?
Not knowing your core values and not sticking to your authenticity. I had been doing New York Fashion Week runways. I had been exposing my bare skin. I still have acne and breakouts, right? And I found, through recommendation, a manager who said that she would help me take my business to the next level. It was kind of top-down talent management. And I was doing promotions for chapstick. I don't hate this lip balm, but I'm doing these promotions for something that I don't necessarily believe in. Here I am, I'm personally choose not to eat animals because I believe in consent, and that's a personal choice. But this manager says, oh, I have a promotion for you next week for a steakhouse. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I feel like I'm living a lie. Like I started this to help other people who felt the way I did, that acne made us ugly or unworthy. And to help turn that on its head and say, no, this is actually a biological human condition. 60 million teens are struggling with this and adults do as well. That's where the passion was. So I was like, why am I straying from that authenticity? It was one of the hardest lessons, but I also see as other influencers are up and coming after doing this for a decade, you see people start to sell out, or you see human nature run its course in a person having an insecurity and taking on something that isn't authentic to them, but they think this is the way of the world, or this is the look of the influencer, this is what I must do. And let's be honest, like the word influencer has a very negative connotation in a lot of ways, but just the way you can have a negative influence, I believe that someone can have a positive influence. And sticking to those core values of honesty and intellect and being able to be that acne big sister for people, really committing to making a positive influence is what keeps me going.
You mentioned that there's times where you maybe have misstepped, or you don't always get it right. You don't know, like any of us, right? It doesn't always land. You make the wrong decision. But it's very different when you're doing it with your community, and your business is your community. How have you learned to continue to evolve and ride through those moments, or fail? Take more risks to fail, but get back and bounce back faster.
Yeah, I believe in failing responsibly. You know, it's human nature to make mistakes. And I don't think that humans are defined by the mistakes we make, but how we recover from them or how we work through them. And failing publicly, I think it is different as someone who creates content versus just a figure behind a brand. You know, there are brands that mess up, but you might not identify, you might not even know who that founder or who that CEO is, and they can be replaced at any time. And putting yourself out there so publicly, it is terrifying. It's kind of become a way of life, but it's refreshing because it gives me this sense of responsibility and purpose that, if I were just kind of behind the scenes, I don't know if I would feel it as viscerally as being able to stand here in my own skin and say, this is what I live with, but this is also what I do. And I think that seeing other people step into this as well, or being a mentor and helping other people, like guiding people who have these traditional businesses and saying, here's how you be more authentic online. Here's how you speak to your customer base. Do you actually know what they want? Have you sat down and spoken with them? That is so valuable. And I don't think that traditional business schools always teach that the best. And especially in a day and age where for the past year, we've been walled up in our rooms. We've felt a lack of connection. Why do we wear the brands that we wear? Why do we drive the car or wear that watch? It's because we identify with that brand in some way, right? Well, then how are we identifying with the people in the media we consume? And I think that us being able to tap into that, being able to ask the questions of what works, what doesn't, and what still within that kind of Venn diagram feels authentic to us, that's the sweet spot. And when you can turn that pain into passion, I just don't feel like there's anything that can stop that.
What does it mean to be an entrepreneur on YouTube today?
I think it's very different than what people expect it to be. They don't realize that we've got a team of employees, contractors, etc. We've got 50 people who work every single day on our content. I don't think people realize that it does take a little bit of strategy, but it also takes a lot of putting yourself out there and a lot of failing publicly. In the past, I used to see failure as this end-all be-all. It's like, okay, you fail or you win. But what if we redefine that and it's on this linear scale? And you have to fail a certain amount of times to get to success. And I don't think that people always lean into that the way they could. They say, oh my gosh, I filmed a video, I sound weird, I look funny, or people didn't receive it well, I'm done. As opposed to saying, okay, what did people not like or what went really well? How can I do more of what works and less of what doesn't? How can I be a part of that positive change?